Okay, so I hope you guys can see my screen.
Yes, Meir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So when you guys log into Marketing Cloud, normally this is the first screen you can see. Um, this can be customized. So, all those who are interested in not looking at this as the first screen, you can definitely customize it. You can play around with it. Uh, but basically what you see is some templates, which is already inbuilt into Marketing Cloud. It will give you those over here, right on top. There's a calendar, which is basically, this calendar will have a list of all campaigns which have been scheduled. So in case there's a campaign schedule, you will get to see it in this calendar. As of now, it's empty. But if it's a live production instance, then if campaigns are being scheduled earlier, for example, a campaign needs to go live on the 14th. If it's already been scheduled, you'll actually get to see it in this box. Trailblazer is an amazing repository where you will get a lot of help. So feel free to use Trailblazer. With this access of Marketing Cloud, you have access to Trailblazer as well. You can definitely use this. There are some blogs which keeps getting updated on a regular basis. You can keep looking at that. Einstein is the artificial intelligence part of Salesforce Marketing Cloud. We may be looking at Einstein if time permits, but it's more like at an intermediate or an advanced level. But if time permits, we'll definitely look into that. Further down, you will see some emails which have been recently sent out. So any email going out from this instance of Marketing Cloud, it will be listed over here. Um, same thing with Content Builder. I'll show you Content Builder emails shortly. If any automations have been scheduled or automations are running, all that will be visible in this bottom window over here. If some journey activities have happened, it will be visible over here. So this basically gives you a snapshot of some of the most important modules of Salesforce Marketing Cloud. And then right on top is your menu bar. Each of them, you can call it like a module in Salesforce Marketing Cloud. Now it depends on what your client has purchased. It's in some cases, for example, in our case, if you see Interaction Studio has this icon on top of it, basically means that we have not purchased Interaction Studio. It needs to be purchased separately. That's why that icon is over there. If you look at modules, right? So the first one is Email Studio. Now, as the word suggests, anything to do with emails happens in Email Studio. So if you want to design an email template, all that activity happens in Email Studio. We'll be using it quite extensively over the next couple of days. Mobile Studio, Marketing Cloud supports SMSs, WhatsApp, push messages, app inbox messages. All that happens to Mobile Studio. In our instance, we do have access to Mobile Studio. However, if a person wants to use all these features of the Mobile Studio, they need to purchase credits, right? So just like a prepaid SIM card or a prepaid mobile in the old days, where you will put money and you pay 300 rupees and you get 250 rupees worth of talk time and things like that. It's quite similar. If I want to send SMSs, then I need to purchase credits to send SMSs. Sending an SMS could be as cheap as 5 paisa per message, or even cheaper than that. But basically, the studios are available for us to use. However, we won't be able to do any sending or testing simply because we've not taken credits. If you have credits, then yes, you can do SMSs. If you're talking about WhatsApp, again, the studio is available. We can use WhatsApp, but WhatsApp has a different thing. In order to send out WhatsApp messages, you need to first register a business account with Facebook. Once you register, and that registration of business account takes like months. We've tried doing it, so I know it takes a lot of weeks, couple of months to register for a business account. I mean, you can register a business account, but the validation takes that much time. Once it's validated, then then Facebook will give you a couple of templates which you can use. and then you need to inform Facebook which template you'll be using. So out of the 100, 200 templates, you can say, okay, I'll be using these 3 templates, and then you'll have to tell Facebook that, and then again, Facebook will take some time to approve that. And once approved, then you'll be able to use it. So that's how WhatsApp messaging works. Social Studio, as the word suggests, Social Studio is to post social messages. When you want to use Social Studio, you need to connect to social accounts like Facebook, LinkedIn. Once you connect to those accounts, you will be able to post out social messages as well. Advertisement Studio, so all those who have done ad operations in the past, paid ads basically, that happens. You can do that in Marketing Cloud as well. You can do that using Advertising Studio. Web Studio, I spoke about Cloud Pages some time back. There are requirements sometimes to build your own page, own web page, which will support the campaign you're working on. So that is done using Cloud Pages. We'll be doing a lot of Cloud Pages in our sessions. Interaction Studio, as I mentioned, we've not bought it. Those who are on PayPal, PayPal has purchased Interaction Studio. They may launch it a little later. So we don't have much information on Interaction Studio, but it's about stories. So you need to create a story, and it will then help when a person visits your web page, your website, or a certain page on your website. It will help you with intent, right? So if it depends on what the person is browsing, what the person is clicking, how much time he's spending on the different pages, Interaction Studio and the stories which you create will allow us to understand the intent of the person, and then you can launch campaigns accordingly. So that's what Interaction Studio actually does. Analytics Builder, this platform obviously has reporting capabilities as well. So Analytics Builder will actually help you build out custom reports. So if you want to create a dashboard which talks about all your channels, then you can actually build it using Analytics Builder. If you go to Email Studio, it has its own reporting section. So we'll go in shortly, but once you enter Email Studio, it has its own reporting section. So, but that will only give you reports for emails. The same thing for Cloud Pages or Web Studio, right? It'll only give you reports for your Cloud Pages. But if you want to, create like a dashboard which has multiple channels and things like that, then you'll have to use Analytics Builder. Journey Builder, I mentioned some time back. If you want to create a lifecycle campaign or a campaign which has multiple emails, multiple waves of emails, or you want to send an email when a person, let's say, opens or clicks, you want to send an email, or you want to send a WhatsApp message if a person opens an email, all those permutation combinations are possible using Journey Builder. If a person you have a cloud page and you create a survey form on that page. If a person fills up that form and he submits it, and then you want to send a thank you email, that's also possible using Journey Builder. And I'll show you how to do that. Along with Journey Builder is Automation Studio. As I said, Marketing Cloud has a lot of automation capabilities. So we'll be looking into Automation Studio as well. Automation Studio will allow you to write SQL queries. It will allow you to verify certain things in your data. It will allow you to import your data if it's dropped to an SFTP. It will allow you to send an email as well. It will also allow you to trigger a journey. So, these are just a few things which Automation Studio allows. Content Builder. Now, Content Builder, I tell everybody, Content Builder is like a Windows Explorer. All those who don't know Windows Explorer, this is Windows Explorer. Yeah, so this is Windows Explorer, right? So if you look at Windows Explorer, it has folders on the left. It has other things here. I can click on any folder. I can create a new folder. I can copy paste, right? So this is Windows Explorer. People should know what this is. Content Builder is quite similar. If I go to Content Builder, it will basically show me folders. It will show me emails. It can also show me any other asset, right? So images, you have uploaded a PDF file, it will show me the PDF file. So anything which is getting uploaded into Salesforce Marketing Cloud is visible in Content Builder. In the same way, whatever emails are being built, emails or even templates, everything will be available to see in Content Builder. Audience Builder. So in order to send out an email, you need two things. One is you need the email itself. And the second thing is you need a list of people to target. So all that we've been discussing right now is email, WhatsApp, SMS, Cloud Page. Audience Builder is the module which will allow you to work around with lists or data extensions. I'll tell you the difference between the two, but basically targeting happens in Audience Builder. Einstein, like I mentioned, Einstein is the AI part of Salesforce Marketing Cloud. If you see, it has a lot of options over here. We'll see if we can cover Einstein towards the end of our sessions, because this is, as I said, this is quite intermediate to expert level competency for Einstein. Plus, Einstein needs a lot of data. So any new instance, like ours is a new instance of Salesforce Marketing Cloud, it takes at least 3 to 6 months for Einstein to get information. So it'll look at historical campaigns, it'll look at what kind of emails you're writing and things like that. And then it'll start giving predictions or giving recommendations. So even if we check right now, we may not have enough, Einstein may not work for us. But I'll definitely, if time permits, I'll take you through what Einstein can actually do. App Exchange. Now, if you guys have worked on Salesforce products in the past, that could be the CRM, SFDC, or it could be Pardot. Pardot is another marketing automation platform, which is with Salesforce, or even Sales Cloud or Service Cloud. Now, these are all Salesforce products. All of them have an App Exchange. An App Exchange is basically like your Play Store or your Apple Store, where you can get plugins which can connect to Salesforce Marketing Cloud. Some of them are free, some of them are paid. Some of them connect like with a click of a button. For example, this one here, you see Query Studio. This has connected with a click of a button. Just click a few buttons here and there and it just connects. Some of them are more difficult to connect, where you have to do actual API programming. So it depends on what app you want to connect to enhance your experience with Marketing Cloud. So that's App Exchange. Finally, platform. Under platform is Package Manager. I'm not going to dwell onto that, but basically Package Manager is used, as the word says, package, right? So it is used to package out, your emails, your data extensions, your automations, your journeys. You can just package them out into like one file, you can say, which can be transferred to another instance of Marketing Cloud. So instead of manually copy pasting things, you can actually use the Package Manager. All right. Since I'm an admin, I do have other things like administrative things under setup and stuff like that. I'm not going to get into that. We're not going to be doing any admin related work here. It's more development. But anybody interested in administrative stuff, I can talk to you guys separately. I can show you what kind of administrative stuff is available in Marketing Cloud. Any questions so far?
Me, this is Mohit here. What is the difference between social and advertising studio?
Good question. Now, Social Studio will just allow you simple posts, right? So if I create a Facebook account and I've created a page on it, for example, so I can actually do postings on that page, Facebook page. So that's not like, they're not paid ads, basically. It's just a simple post, right?
Mhm.
If I want to
Understood.
paid ads, then I use the power of Advertising Studio. Even Social Studio, though you see it available here, you will not be able to use it because Salesforce is quite smart, right? So they've given us access to it, but if I click on it, it'll ask me to register. And for that, you need to pay extra.
Okay.
Right? So unfortunately, I won't be able to show you Social Studio, but basically, I've seen the module. It allows you to connect to Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and any other social platform you have. Once you connect to the platform by putting your credentials, it'll find all the pages available in that platform. So in Facebook, if I have say 3 pages, it'll show me all the 3 pages. Then I say, okay, this second page is, for my business. So that's the one I want. I select that. Once the setup is done for the first time, then you can, create Facebook messages and publish them, schedule for a publish, or you can just publish them directly and then, get some analytics out of it. So your message could have some links and things like that. So it'll actually give you analytics on who's clicking on the links and stuff like that.
Got it. Got it. Thanks, Meet.
Yeah. Okay. So since there are no questions, let's start with audience builder. I know I'm starting in the middle, but I'm going to start with audience builder, and then we'll migrate to emails. Now, before we start, what I want you guys to do once you log into Marketing Cloud and you're about to start practicing, let's just maintain good hygiene while working with this tool, because there are so many people using this tool now. Right now, this is a batch of 30. Last month, I trained 25 people. So those guys are also in the platform. So that's like 55. Plus, there are other additional people as well. So you can imagine how many people are actually working on this platform. So a couple of things, what I want you guys to do. Audience builder. So since you're starting with audience builder, I clicked on audience builder, I clicked on contact builder. I would like you guys to make your own folders. So whenever you're working in this platform, please make a folder first, and then you can work within your folder itself. So if you're working on audience lists, I'll show you how to build a folder in audience builder, and then you can work in that folder itself. Now, when you click on contact builder, this is the first screen which you get. If you notice, these are system attributes which are available. I'm not going to confuse you about attribute list and things like that. Let's not get into that. Let's look here first. So you have contacts, you have sources, data sources, and you have something called data extensions. 99% of the time, you'll always be working on data extensions. Those who have worked building audiences, if you're using any other platform in the past, I know people have worked on Unica and stuff like that. You guys always work and create an audience list. An audience list normally will have what we call attributes. Attributes would be, examples could be first name, last name, email address, customer ID, region code, language ID, things like that. So those are attributes. Now, let's design a data extension. Now, designing a data extension is extremely critical. It needs to happen slowly. I'm going to design one on Excel for now, and I'll tell you why it's so critical. Now, let's design a very simple data extension of an employee database. Let's say an eClerx employee database. So ideally, it should have employee code, should have first name, last name, email address. Let's say it has, if it's eClerx, let's say vertical. Yeah, let's keep so many fields for now. Now, whenever you're designing a data extension, it's like designing a database table. So all those who have worked on SQL or any other like Oracle, Sybase, any other database technology, it should be quite simple for them, and it should be So basically, we have attribute names. So these are attribute names. In fact, let me this way. Okay, so how do you design a database? Let's do this. So it has to have an attribute name. After attribute name, normally there will be attribute type. When you say attribute type, simple examples of attribute type will be text, integer, date, time, logical. Logical could be, true or false, yes, no, and many more. There are different types. Different systems use different attribute types. So employee code, let's say attribute type integer. Integer, again, it depends on system to system, but by definition, integer means it takes whole numbers. It will not take 5.2, 3.7. It will only take 3, it will only take 5, right? That's by definition of an integer. First name normally is text. Last name also should be text. Email address, text. Vertical, text. Let's add one more field. Let's say so this is ex-employee, right? So there are many people who leave the organization and they come back due to whatever reason, right? So maybe they thought it was a wrong decision to leave the organization, so I'm coming back, or the other organization they joined did not fulfill the needs. Whatever they mentioned was not really working out, so you decided to come back. So that's why I'm just keeping this field, ex-employee. This could be a Boolean field or a logical field, right? So these are attribute types. The next thing will be keys. Now, what is a key? So key, again, there are various definitions of keys. I'll give you my definition. Uh, Key is something which is unique to this table. When I say unique, that basically means that whatever that attribute value is, that does not get repeated in this entire table. Uh, and keys can change, right? So if it's an employee database, normally the key would be an employee code, right? Like my employee code is 11608. There can never be any employee in eClerx with the same employee code, right? So that's why it's a unique code, 11608. Email address could be unique as well, like a key, sorry. Email address could be a key as well. Why? Because my email address is with me. The same email address cannot be given to somebody else. First name, last name ideally cannot be keys because first names can be repeated, last names can be repeated. Vertical cannot be key because again, some of the people will be in digital, some will be in markets, some will be in, other verticals as well. So vertical can't be key. Ex-employee definitely can't be a key. So this table I'm building can be support two keys, employee code and email address. Now it is very important when you're designing a data extension to know what your key is. There are many people who build data extensions without keys and then it messes up majorly. Remember one thing, once you've built or designed your data extension and loaded it with data, it is very difficult to update the attributes or the attribute name, attribute properties, types. It's very difficult because you already loaded it with data. Whatever updates you're trying to do might not satisfy the current data which is loaded in the data extension and it might give errors. So that's why I'm suggesting if you're tasked with the activity of building a data extension, please think very clearly. It's not wrong to do it on an Excel like how I'm doing for you guys. Do it on an Excel, see that everything looks fine, and then do it in Salesforce Marketing Cloud. It's the fastest way to do it. After keys is null. Now, null is another important field not a field, sorry. Null is another important parameter in a data extension or even in a database table. Out of all these attributes, which attributes can actually take a null value? So null value, for those who don't know a definition, null means blank, right? So there is no data, there is no value for that field, for that record. So, oops, sorry, wrong button. So employee code can't be null, right? It's not possible for anybody not to have an employee code. First name, again, everybody has a first name. Not possible. Last name, again, not possible. Email address, obviously not possible. Vertical. Now, it's possible. Again, I'm giving a hypothetical situation. In eClerks, it doesn't happen that way. But just, I want to show it to you in data extension. That's why I'll give you a hypothetical situation that let's say I'm hiring interns. Interns, when I hire them, they may not be mapped to a vertical to begin with. Then after the internship is done, or even if they're apprentices, right? If I hire from outside apprentices, initially their vertical may not be mapped because an apprentice will do their apprenticeship with a particular program. Once they've finished their term, and if they've cleared everything, then they're given an option to work with eClerks if they would like to. So it's possible that they might have done their apprenticeship in digital, but they're getting an opening in the financial markets, right? So what's going to happen is it's quite possible that initially when a person joins as an apprentice or maybe an intern, they don't have a vertical set. Afterwards, after whatever 2 months, 3 months, the vertical comes up and then it can be updated. So in our example, let's take that as a use case. So it is going to allow null. An ex-employee, Boolean, again, not null. Now, by rule of thumb, if it's a key, definitely it can't allow null values. And then the other fields, when you're designing the table, you need to figure out if it can allow null values or no. In some databases, Salesforce, SFDC, CRM database, I've seen some companies allow null value for last name. We can also do that. It's not a key. And we can do that if you want. The null value for last name is not a good practice, but for our use case, we can definitely do that. Now, the next parameter is default. Now, default is specifically for nulls. So basically what it does is, if you want, if there's a null value, either you allow it to remain null in the data extension in that record, or if you want to put a default, then you can type the default value over here. So when I say default, what's going to happen is when you load the data, if it encounters a null value, it will see, okay, what's the default for this null value? If the default has been set, then it will not keep it null. It will actually take the default instead. So for example, what I can do is for last name, instead of just keeping it blank, which doesn't look good, I will say something like this. So what's going to happen is whenever I encounter a record having a last name which says not registered, that basically means that initially when the data was loaded, we did not have his last name. Vertical, same thing. What I'll do. So this what this means that whenever the data is being loaded, if the vertical is blank, it'll automatically put intern instead. So anybody doing analysis with the data or using the data for maybe campaigns or something like that, the moment they come across intern, they will know, okay, this person's vertical is not set right now. It's that's why it's saying intern. Intern is not a vertical in eClerks, but it's just a marker for us to know. So with this, I'm happy that, okay, I've decided this is what my database structure should look like. And then I start building it. Let's go back here. Click on data extensions. Now on the left, you'll see data extensions over here. Now these data extensions are which Marketing Cloud provides to you. I will show you, but don't delete. Okay. So these, you have an option to delete data extensions. I'll show you how to do that, but try not to delete these data extensions. These are some things which Marketing Cloud has provided by default. Now, if you click here, you will notice two folders. Right now, that's my folder, and then there's another folder which says Query Studio Results. What I want you guys to do is when you practice data extensions later today or maybe tomorrow, create a folder first and then build all your practice data extensions in that folder. How to create a folder? All you need to do, I'll create a folder for Mohit since he's on the call. So all you need to do is highlight data extensions, and down below is this symbol here. Just click on that and just create a folder. So that's how you create a folder. So in the same way, all you guys, around 29-30 of you, please create your own folder and then work on your data extension. If you don't create your folder, what's going to happen is your data extensions, whichever you're working on, will start appearing in this list. And it will be very difficult even for you to locate. Now, right now, it's just, look at this, it's 16 items. You'll make one, it'll be 17, it'll go to the next page. It'll be very difficult for you yourself to locate your own data extensions. If you make a folder, it's easier. So how to access my folder? Just click on it. Now these are all the data extensions in my folder. I have some subfolders as well. You can do that if you want. So this is a subfolder having some more stuff. Right. So I'm going to create a subfolder here. Okay, so I am going to build everything under this. So just keep this highlighted. Obviously, there are no data extensions over here. This will allow me to create a new data extension. I click on it. Now, there are multiple options here. Create from new, create from existing, create from a template. Create from new, as it says, you're creating from scratch. Create from existing. So that basically means if you want to clone an existing data extension. So there is a data extension, you want to clone it. Again, that data extension could be anywhere in the system, right? Mohit may have built a data extension and it's in his folder. I want to use the same data extension. Of course, the data might be different in it, but I still want to use the same attributes, defaults, everything, data types. Then I can use create from an existing. I'll show you some examples. Create from a template. This basically means that the organization has created a standard data extension with certain attributes. And that data extension attribute, whenever you're creating a new data extension for a new campaign, it has to follow the same standard. That's why what I'll do is I'll create a template. And every time I want to create then a new data extension, I will use a template. So that's the advantage of templatized data extensions. The same funda is for emails as well. I'll create email template and then I'll use templatized emails. Helps you create emails faster. Same thing for cloud pages, same thing for journeys. Salesforce Marketing Cloud has templates for everything. You can create basically templates for everything. I'm going to do create from new. Give it a name. This name has to be unique. When I say unique, throughout Salesforce Marketing Cloud, this is our Eclipse instance of Salesforce Marketing Cloud. Throughout this instance, the name cannot exist anywhere else. So maybe Mohit is building his own data extensions. I'm building my own data extensions. But if I'm creating a new data extension, if Mohit has used a name, I can't use the same name. So I'm going to give this name. Description, good to have a description. See, today, when you're working in production as a team, today one person is building a data extension. Let's say he built it and there is still some work left in it. He's not finished everything. He decides to work on it the next day. Next day, the person is absent because of whatever reason, health reasons or whatever. And somebody else is tasked to complete the work. If that person would have had a proper description, then it is easy for that other person to locate and say, oh yeah, that's the data extension Mihir was working on. So I'll pick that up and I'll start working on it. So good to have a good description. Maybe the campaign name, maybe the what the data extension is about, and you can have that description here. Type. By default, it's going to show standard. I will tell you different other types of data extensions shortly, but this one is a standard data extension. Obviously, the location, in case you have not gone into your folder and then press the create button, you can change the location from here if required. Now, this is important, sendable. Now, if you want to use a data extension to store a list of people who are getting targeted for an email or a WhatsApp or SMS, whatever, that data extension needs to be sendable. So if it's an email, then obviously the data extension should have email addresses in it. If it's a WhatsApp or an SMS, then that data extension needs to have telephone numbers in it. If you don't make it sendable, you will not be able to select that data extension to connect to an email or a WhatsApp or an SMS. So you have to be very sure if it is going to be used for sending out notifications or for a campaign, it has to be sendable. By default, you should also make it testable. What do you mean by testable? So basically, you may want to create a data extension with test data. I will tell you why you would want to do that. As of now, in this scope, it is not really important, but I will tell you later on why. So if you want to use it for testing, then you'll have to make it testable. If you untick this, then you will not be able to use it for testing. So you don't lose anything if you make it testable. So I would say if you're making it sendable, please make it testable as well. Yeah, Mohini, you have a question?
Yeah. So whatever the creatives that we are creating here, or say the data extension we are creating, it is main purpose to use it as a target, right? So why this checkbox for the sendable is there? Why they have added this particular here?
Good question, Mohini. So first of all, your statement, I won't say it's wrong. Data extensions in Marketing Cloud are not only used for targeting. Data extensions can be used for other things as well. And I'll show you examples of those other things as well. So when you're using it for other things, like references and things like that, you don't need to make it sendable. When you make it sendable for targeting, that is, then I'll show you the next step. It will basically tell me to map. So when I say mapping, basically it needs to know how do what do I use. So if it's an email I'm going to target, where is the email address stored? I need to do all that when I make it sendable. If I don't make it sendable, I don't need to do all that. So there is another type of data extension called content data extension. Content data extension is used for personalization, and it's a non-sendable data extension. So you can make it non-sendable. There are other types of data extension which now there's Grab, right? Grab is another client which we have. They use a lot of campaigns based on geo-targeting. So they have data which comes, the geo data comes in a data extension. Now this geo data does not have any email addresses or anything like that. So it's a non-sendable data extension. So there are multiple types of data extensions which you can create. So you have to be very careful which should be sendable, which should be non-sendable. But that doesn't mean that whatever data extension you create, you make all of them sendable. That's a wrong notion. Remember, if you do that, what's going to happen is whenever you try, and I'll show you, when you try to connect the data extension to an email, it'll make a list of all the sendable data extensions. Now, if you saying, I don't want to think too much, I'll make everything sendable, so, it'll work. There will always be a problem. You might connect the wrong data extension, which has wrong values, if you make everything sendable. So always remember, whenever you have a data extension which stores email addresses, which will be used to send out emails, that should be sendable. Or a data extension which has, say, customer ID. A customer ID in the system in Marketing Cloud, and I'll show you, it maps in such a way that it can pick up email addresses from the master table as well. So either customer ID or email address, then those data extensions definitely have to be sendable because you'll be using them to send out emails. Any other data extension which you're using for references, just for storing some data, temporary storage maybe, all those can be non-sendable. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Kavita says, any use case of why a DE should not be set as is testable. So when it comes to testing, right, your test data extensions basically allow you, as I said, you can test. So when later on, when we do personalization, in order to test for multiple use cases for personalization, maybe you have 5, 10, 15, 20 use cases which you want to test. Obviously, you can't use your main master data to test because maybe all those 15, 20 use cases may not come up. But you'll have to create a test data extension which has all those 15, 20 permutation combinations. That's when you need a testable data extension. Now, when you're asking me any use case why a data extension should not be set as is testable, again, it's the same thing, right? If I don't set it as testable, I will not get that option to use that data extension when I want to do the test. So there are areas whenever you're trying to send out email or maybe journey builder also, where it'll say, do you want to test using test data extensions? If I say yes, then it will give me a list of these test data extensions. If I untick this, then that data extension will not appear in that list. Is that what you wanted to know, Kavita?
What I want to know is, okay, so let's say we've created these sendable data extensions for our campaigns. Do you recommend by default we mark them as is testable or not? And if not, then why not?
Correct. So sendable data extensions for your regular campaigns, I would say don't mark them as testable because I don't
Why?
want to test live data,
Okay.
right? Because see, remember one thing, when it is testing, right, it will send out those emails. Right? So I don't want to test on live data. I want to test on if the same data extension I'm building having internal names like Kavita, Daryl, Mohit, Mihir, then I'll make it sendable and testable. If I do a test, it does not capture all the the clicks and it does not even capture it in the report. Right?
And
Yeah.
and then let's say if I don't check the is testable and this is a sendable data extension, can I still manually add records in the sendable data extension?
Yeah, you can. So see, if I do this, but I still have Kavita, Daryl, Mihir, Mohit, I can still do the testing, right? I can send a physical email connecting this data extension. I know it got test people, so it's okay. But what's going to happen is it's going to even do the reporting part and stuff like that. So you don't want test data in your actual reports, right? So that's why always keep it testable wherever required and use wherever the test options are available, use those test options, because they will remove these, all the tests which you will be doing, they will remove it from the regular reports. So your reports don't get diluted.
So, Mihir, does that mean whenever we want to launch a campaign, we need to uncheck this testable field
No, no, no.
to get
You
the
don't need.
actual impressions?
You don't need to. I'm just saying, if you're launching a campaign and you want to do a test run, right? If you're sending using, if it's like this, for example, even if it is like this, but I can do a live send also, right? I know that it is only for touching test people like Kavita and all, but I can do a live send. If I do that, it will go fine. You can test it out also. You can see everything's working fine. But what's going to happen is your Salesforce reports are going to report out all that. So if you're going to do an aggregate reporting, maybe end of the quarter, end of the month, it will contain all your test sends as well. Then somebody will have to manually remove all those IDs. So instead of that, my recommendation is always keep testing on for at least your test data extensions. So what is going to happen is, whenever you want to simulate an email test, do a test using the test data extension. Those impressions will not appear in your reports. So you don't have to manually remove them, because they will not be there as a part of your report. That is the advantage of testable.
Okay, that's great. Thank
Yeah. Data retention policy. Now, this all depends on your client. They might ask you to keep it on or off. But basically what it does is, like right now it's off. If I keep it on, what it basically does is it can clear out the entire data extension automatically. Now this is all customer data, and by law, a person should have access to customer data only if they want to use it for a campaign. And ideally, if you don't need that data afterwards, you should not have access to that data. That is how customer data needs to be treated. How people normally do it is, they use it for a campaign and then they will manually purge the list, or they'll archive the list, or they'll encrypt the list, whatever. Marketing Cloud, what it allows you to do is, if we know that after 45 days this list is becoming redundant, I can just set it up 45 days. So what's going to happen is, automatically after 45 days, the data extension will get purged. Structure will remain the same, but your records will get deleted. That's how data retention policy works. So you'll have to check with your client if they have any specific requirements to keep this on or off. And now the interesting part, attributes. So we worked on this, right? So I'm going to put these attributes now. So if you see, I start with employee code. It was a primary key, I told you. I said integer. Now these are the different data types, right? Number, date, Boolean, email address, phone number, decimal, locale. Okay, it doesn't have integer. I mentioned integer. That's my bad. But basically, yeah, I'll keep that as a number. Remember, I told you if it's a primary key, I don't get an option to make it, not required. It has to be required. Then next was first name. It's text. Depends, right? First name, 50 characters should be sufficient. It's not a key, but it is required. So I'm going to click on this. Last name. I said it was not required. And here is how you can put your default value. And then we had email address. Now, I know I had shown you email address is text because it's obviously text field, but Marketing Cloud gives you actually a data type called email address. So the good advantage of email address is that in case somebody puts an invalid email address, Again, when I say invalid, it is not like an email address which is going to bounce. Invalid means it's missing an @ sign, or it has two @ signs, it has a full stop somewhere at the wrong side, or basically an incorrect formatted email address, let's put it that way. Marketing Cloud will automatically raise an exception. Normally, what you need to do is, if you're using email address as a text field, you might need to add some exception handling to ensure that the person is typing a correct email address. In this case, since there is a data type called email address, it automatically manages it. Again, I said email address is a key, so it will automatically become required. I said vertical. I said it's text, and it allows null values. So by default, it will write intern in case it is a null value. And finally, it is ex-employee. I said it will be Boolean. Right. So Boolean, again, I can make it required or not required, whatever. I'm going to make it required because I want to know. Now, this is my mapping, field mapping, data types and stuff like that. Now, this is important, right? So over here, send relationship relates to. So basically, here I'm trying to tell Marketing Cloud which fields over here actually are storing the email address. So I can say email address relates to subscriber key. When I do this, this basically means take the email address from here, from this row. So whichever record is there, take this attribute which has the email address. If I change it over here, it's not coming, but basically, I'm surprised it's not coming. But ideally, if I don't say this email address, then there is a master list. I'll show you the master list as well. It will take the email address from over there. Normally, it is an ID. I need to put that here. I forgot what it is called. Maybe I'll just research and put it. But basically, what it does is it will relate that with the ID in the master list, and it will pick up the email address from the master list instead of the email address which is added over here. There are some use cases where that is required, where you want to use the email address which is there in the master list rather than the email address which has been provided in this data extension list. So if that is the use case, then you don't have to do this. Then whichever that field was, I think it's called UID or something like that. Whatever that field is, you map it to subscriber key. So then it will pick it up directly from the master list. But for our use case over here, this thing works. This became 50. Okay. That's my data extension. It's been created. If I want to look at it, these are all the properties. It's a sendable data extension used for sending, testing, email address relates to subscriber on the subscriber key. Retention will be here if I want, if it's turned, sorry, retention is here if it's turned on. These are my attributes. I can make changes here if required. I can edit, I can delete, I can create a new attribute if required. Like I mentioned, if you have data in the system, then editing, deleting, and creating may be a little hampered depending on what row you want to edit or delete. Same thing when you create also, if you're creating a new row with a required value, it might again give an issue because there is already data. So if you're creating a new attribute, then what should be the, and it is a required value, then it will get confused. The system, it may not even allow you to do it. Records. These are your records. Right now it is blank. Obviously, there's no data. There are multiple ways to populate a data extension. One is which is rarely done, manual. I can just click on add record and I can type. If you notice, whatever is the default values, they're already displaying over here. So this is one way. This is one way of adding data to a data extension. The second way is an import. You can import data using a CSV file. I'll show you how to do that. But you can import data using CSV. That's the second way. Third way is through forms. So if you have a form on maybe a cloud page, a person populates data on that form. When he clicks the save button, it can populate a data extension. That's the third way of doing it. Fourth method is in your email itself. When I show you AMP scripting, there are some functions which will allow you to add or insert data to data extension. So depending on the use case, you may need to use that function to populate values in data extension. So that's like another way of adding value to a data extension. So like that, there are multiple ways. So this is manual, which I just showed you. If you want to do import, it's quite simple. Let's use the same one. This is the same data extension which I had. What I'm going to do is let's try importing values. So for that, I'm going to that. Back. Okay, so these are the fields, right? Now, a couple of things on importing. It's not necessary that your import file should have the same amount of fields. Now over here, my data extension has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fields or 6 attributes. My import file also has 6 right now, but it's not necessary. It can have more than 6. It can even have lesser than 6. But if it is lesser than 6, then at least the required ones, they have to be there. Whatever is not required, those can be omitted. But definitely over here we have, I think, employee code is required. First name is required, email address is required, and this is required. So at least these 4 fields which are required definitely need to be there on this Excel. That's the first thing. Second thing is the headers. Headers may not be the same. Like this is EMP underscore code. This matches this, but maybe I will do this. I can still do the import. So headers need not match the attributes of the data extension.
Mihir,
Yeah.
on this specific use case, I was under the impression that the headers need not match, because when you're importing, you could do the field mapping.
Correct.
But in the PayPal context, the way the solution was designed, they have insisted that the list that you receive, no, the file that you receive, the codes, the field names should be exactly as the attribute names of the data extension, the sendable data extension created. And of course, just a caveat over there, the file import happens using automation. So
Correct.
can you sort of throw light on why that could have been like a requirement?
Yeah. So when you're doing import, and you will see the glimpses now. When you're doing an import using Automation Studio, before you do the import, you're creating something called an import definition. Right? So an import definition is, in layman's term, in those olden days when we used to do VB, I'm sure everybody's done it, VBA coding, right? In Excel, in Microsoft Word, you could actually write macros, right? So people who didn't know how to write macros, there was an option saying record macro. So in record macro, you click it, And then whatever steps you're doing, clicking here, adding a record, adding a row, making something bold, copy, paste, whatever. And then when you save the macro, if you run the macro, it keeps doing the same thing again and again. Right? I'm sure everybody's done that. Import definition is the same thing. So you're actually creating a macro, which is then used in Automation Studio. So what in that macro, it depends on how you're building the import. You need to define your headers over there in that macro. So whatever definition you're giving for the rest of the import files, which will come on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to PayPal's SFMC, those headers can't change. That's the reason, Kavita, why they're saying those headers have to match the sendable data extension, right? But again, I'll show you now. We are not creating an import definition, but we will be simulating the import definition. I'll show you right now only.
Okay.
The first time when you're doing it, right? The first time, whatever headers you're using for the first time, those have to match all your data files which will be coming. So for the first time, if in this is employee EMP code, like this is my sendable data extension. This is EMP underscore code. But if my data file is going to have code all the time, it will still work because I'll be mapping code, this code to EMP code in the sendable data extension. It should
But
not.
it can't have another. But it can't have another attribute name instead of code, like e code or something. It can't have that, right?
It can
The
even
next
have
time.
E code, but every time it should be the same. Then it
Yeah,
can't
that's
be,
what I'm saying.
right? Yeah.
Correct.
Now why they may have told you this, it could be another reason, and I'll show you that as well. Header, you can match in multiple ways. So when we come to that screen, I'll show you. You can match by header names. You can match manually, or there's another third way which is called ordinals. Now, if the PayPal guys are creating the import definition based on ordinals, then there's a problem. It is dangerous also because ordinal, what it does is it does numbers. It will
No,
not
it's not
bother about
happening
the
through
name.
ordinal. No, it's not happening through ordinal. It's happening through
Okay.
field name matching.
Okay. So then it's the same thing, right? You can have whatever name you want. You will be manually matching it, or you could do auto matching. I'll show you both manual matching and auto matching. But after that, the file can't change. It then all the time the file comes has to have the same because your import definition is going to be like.
Okay.
Okay, so let's just put some dummy data. To I'm going to leave the first name blank. Let's see what happens. Last name also I'm leaving blank. Now let's do the keys as well, right? So now I already have a record of Kavita. Now remember, I have two keys in this, code and email address. Now the thing is, if I have two keys, then when I'm adding a record, if both the keys are same in the record which I'm adding, it will cause a violation. What I mean to say is if I'm adding a new record like this, and if I'm adding a new record like this, it will cause a violation because I have two keys in the system, code and an email address, and both are already available here. So this is a primary key violation. However, if I change this like this, ideally it should not cause a violation because I know the email address is repeated here, but since there are two keys in this data extension, I'm not causing any violation. So ideally, it should allow me to enter this data. I have not tried this use case myself, so we can try it today.
Meet, sorry, a quick question there.
Yeah.
So when you had put in the second entry, the employee code was 4. Uh,
Ha.
I think you intended to make it 3 only, like both.
No, I kept it. Oh, sorry, my bad. It was 3.
Okay.
My bad. Sorry for that. Yeah. So yeah, if I have a record like this, it's going to cause a violation because I have two keys and both the keys are getting, violated here. Remember, when I say two keys, that basically means I cannot have a record satisfying both the keys together. If I have 3 keys, then I cannot have a record which is violating all the 3 keys together. But I can definitely do it this way. Though the email address is duplicate, it should not cause an issue.
So just you can type, I'm just brainstorming then. This means that ELT cannot be done, right? Because in ELT, generally the email address is the same, is common. And the customer key, that is also output as the email address only. So then,
Correct.
then
No,
you will
you
have,
can do it. Don't keep it as a key. No, you have multiple records, right? You're saying customer key is same, email address is same, you're saying?
email address and customer key usually is force output as the sandbox underscore koi wala mailbox. So then for that, one of those customer key will always be key, that field. So email address does not have to be key. Okay, I got it. I think
Got
I
it?
know what.
Okay, let's say that this is my data. I'm going to save it. We're going to save it as a CSV. It allows CSVs. So we'll call this CSV file. Now, let's say what's going to happen. This will be a violation because first name is required and I don't have, so it will mostly skip this one. Kavita's record should go through. I don't see a problem with this record. Mihi's record, I feel should go through, though the email address is same, but my employee code is not the same. So I think it should go through. And Mr. Darrell's record should go through. There's no problem there. In fact, let's do this. Let's make Darrell an intern. There you go. So let's try loading it. How do you load it? Just click on import. Now, when you click on import, there are two options. This one is a manual import, and this is import definition. Now, import definition, like I mentioned, it's like you're creating a macro. If you're using Automation Studio, you have to create an import definition because obviously it's automated, right? It has to do it on a regular basis. That's why you need import definitions. In our example over here, I'm just going to do a one time. So I'm going to use this option here. Whichever option you use, the next steps are the same. The only difference is import definition. You'll have to give it a name of that import definition. Over here, I don't have to give a name. It'll ask me for the file. So obviously I need to choose the file. It's on my desktop somewhere. Great, July, right? That's the file. It takes comma, tab, or any other separator if you want. I've taken comma by default. That's the name of the file. Now this is important. There are 4 options for import type. There's add and update, add only, update only, and overwrite. Add and update, very simple. If an existing record exists, I mean, if there's a record with the same keys which exists, it will update that record, assuming that there's new data. If the record doesn't exist, it will add the record into the data extension. Add only basically means it will only add. So if there's anything to modify, like the first option I gave you, those will be ignored. It will only add those records. If there are 10 records, 5 of a modification and 5 of a updates. Sorry, 5 of a modification and 5 of a add. it'll ignore the modification records and it'll only add those 5 records. Update only is the reverse. It'll ignore the records which need to be added. It'll only do the modifications. And the last one is override. When you do override, it basically deletes the entire data extension, at least the rows. It'll delete all of them and it'll, whatever you're importing, those will get added new. So these are the different options which you have depending on the use case. You would need to select, right? So if you have a data extension that is, let's say it's a transaction details data extension, right? So a transaction details data extension in PayPal terms will be basically a data extension that stores transactions of all the customers. So that basically means that customer ID will be repeated in that data extension. So customer ID can't be key, right? Or in fact, it can be a key, but basically there will be another key as well. The other key could be transaction date and time, right? Because transaction date also might be same, but the time will change, right? At least milliseconds or seconds will definitely change. So for a person like me, if my customer ID is 1, so I'll have multiple records. Now, when I want to update this data extension, I can't do override, because if I do override, I'm going to delete all the records. So mostly the options I'll select would be mostly add only. Obviously, once a transaction is being done, I'm not going to edit the existing transaction. So it will mostly be only add only. It's possible editing is there in case you want to do some, if somebody, if it's a wrong transaction and things have to be edited, then I might do add and update. But I will definitely not use overwrite for that data extension. So it all depends on use cases. So in this one, I'm just going to do add and update because there is one record with my name. I don't want to delete it. Now here is the mapping, right? So as I said, there's map by ordinal, map by header row, and map manually. Now ordinal is number, right? So what it does is basically, if the CSV has say 5 columns, then it's column 1, column 2, column 3, 4, and 5. So column 1 will get mapped. So if I do ordinal, right? Let's see ordinal. Now this is the CSV file. It has got 4 columns. So by default, what it's going to do is, oh, sorry, it's got more columns. It's got 6 columns. So by default, what it's going to do is first column with the first column of the data extension. So it's doing it by default. That this is ordinal. Nobody ever uses ordinal. We use these two. Header row. Now header row, what it tries to do is the CSV, if it has headers which match the attributes of the data extension, you'll see it's already done some mapping. Email address is mapping, ex-employee is matching, but it doesn't know this, like employee code, first name. It's confused here. It's not done any matches if you notice. And again, vertical it has matched, but last name it is confused. So the only other option we have is manual matching, where you do manually. And this is what I was, we were talking, Kavita and I, some time back. When you're creating, when you're doing this manual matching, you can have any name, you can do the matching, but then henceforth, the file which comes has to have the same name because you're already creating, an import definition, which will be doing this match. So for example, employee code, I'm matching with code. First name, I'm matching with F name, email address with email address, ex-employee with ex-employee. These are all my required fields. And then optional is last name and vertical. So here I am, my matching. Now that is why I also mentioned that the CSV may have additional fields, which is fine. Because if I don't use those fields here, it's going to ignore those fields anyways. So you don't have to worry. So if you get a CSV, it has a lot of fields, but your data extension has lesser fields. Don't waste time and delete the fields which are not required. It's all right. You can do the matching. But the required fields definitely have to be there. You can't ignore those. There's a final review and create. So basically you see all, you review it. Okay, this is the name of the file. It has got 6 columns. It's connecting to this data extension. It's importing, sorry, to this data extension. Manual mapping is being done. I'm doing add and update, and I'll get a notification once import is completed. And that's how I do an import. I would be getting an email shortly. Now, something with Salesforce Marketing Cloud, right? And I've noticed this pretty often. Now, once the import is completed, you will be like, okay, it's not reflecting here. So then you'll get out of this, and then you'll try to load it again. Oh, it reflected. Okay. So sometimes it takes time. So you may have to go out and reload it, and then it gets updated. Sometimes it takes so long that you might have to go to a different module. You'll have to go to some other module and then come back. So it all depends on how Salesforce is working that day. Today, I think it's working fine. Now I got an email, but as suspected, I've got some error messages. If you notice, it's inserted 3 and it has sent some validation errors. It's not updated anything because there was nothing to update actually. So it's inserted 3 records, and this is the validation message. It's quite cryptic. Unfortunately, I don't know why Salesforce Marketing Cloud does it like this, but basically it's trying to tell me row 0, which is basically the first row of the Excel, the first name is a required field. So like I said, right, the first name I had left it blank, and that's the reason why it's given this error message, and it skipped this record. So just for you guys to see. This was the file. This is the first row. It's given an error because this is a required field. I did not populate it. It has skipped this record. Now, this field, right? Let's see if it has actually used the same email address. Ideally, it should have. There. It's actually updated, but it's not reflecting. So don't be surprised if this happens. This happens very regularly with Salesforce Marketing Cloud. I've been seeing this for the past 3 years. I have no idea why it does this. So you get out and come back in again. Okay, when something like this happens, I'll just give a tip to you guys. When something like this happens, you'll see multiple menus here. This is not a feature. This is Salesforce Marketing Cloud it's gone nuts. The best thing to do is try and either log out and log in again and see if that works. Yeah, I didn't do that, but yeah, I guess it's working. Yeah, it's gone nuts. Best is to log out and log in again. And you will notice all this with Salesforce Marketing Cloud. It does this. I have no idea why. Data extensions, my folder. I'm happy everybody started creating folders. Thank you guys. July. Got 4 records. You look at the records. There you go. It's allowed me to have the same email address, though it's a key, simply because of the employee code. If the employee code was also 3 for the third record, it would have given a exception over a violation over there. But in this case, it's allowed. Daryl's record, I had left these fields blank, so it's automatically picked up the default values. So this is how it's a very simple exercise of loading a data extension using the import process. It's 3:30. We'll have to end today's session. But what I would recommend everybody to do is just like these folks over here, please create your own folders. And you can practice creating data extensions. You can practice importing as well. I showed you how to import. Tomorrow, what we'll do is we'll go deeper into data extensions. There are multiple, this is a standard data extension. So I'll show you filtered data extensions, random data extensions. We'll go into that, cloning data extensions, deleting data extensions, and other things. I'll show you lists. And I will also show you accessing data extensions from other modules. So we'll pick that up tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Any questions on what we've done today? All right, I'm going to take that as a no. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks,
Okay.
Mir.
Thanks, Mohit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Meher.